Okay guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about competence. What I think true competence is. So this is an interesting one, and I'm going to use it through the example of bodybuilding. It's not an exact science what I'm going to say, but I'm sure you guys will be able to abstract what I mean. So, see that guy walking his horse? Nuts. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to use the example of bodybuilders. So people often say that the bodybuilding look is too much, and we can debate whether that's true or not, but I think certainly in the general scheme of things, women, it's not a massive difference in attraction to women from going from like a very good muscular frame to like some next level guy who's like a proper like professional bodybuilder. You know, I'm sure it depends from woman to woman, but I think there's a kind of bell curve in terms of effort put into how good a response you get from women, and it's kind of bodybuilding's on the upper end of that curve. Like, you know, I'm sure all these bodybuilders don't struggle to get women, but they're at a point where they're so muscular that they're not actually getting, they're getting about the same appeal from their body as someone who's half as muscular as them, but then maybe on top of that has a good job, and we'll get back to that later. So the reason for this, I think, is because it's easy to get from 1 to 2. You know, it's easy to get from skinny to muscular. But it's actually it's hard to get from 1 to 2. It's hard to go from skinny to muscular, but it's actually a bit easier to get from 2 to 3, because in a sense, you've done all the you got started, you're on a roll. You guys will have this experience where, let's say you just get on a roll with work, with studying, or whatever it is you're doing. It's just kind of all you're doing. You don't have any other distractions. That's all you're doing. And you're able to really excel at work, at studying. Because your mind's not constantly switching out of gear to do other things. I think that's partly what makes, you know, that really sort of higher echelon of building muscle, though it's very impressive to do. In a sense, I think why evolutionarily it's not as attractive to women, or it's not excessively attractive to women compared to just a good lean frame. And we'll talk about exactly what I mean by that. Is because women, it doesn't take as much, it displays less competence to go from that stage. Sorry guys, just a horse going past. That's fucking weird. There's less competence required in that stage, right? So, but on the other side, it's actually far harder to get reasonably good muscle mass, but then on top of that, get a good job, which is also attractive to girls, right? Because you kind of switching gears in achieving both those things, and you might get to a lesser stage than you get to any one of them if you dedicated just to that. Because ultimately, but the trick is to like get everything in balance, right? And I mean, I've viewed this through the lens of female attraction. I think it is true to a large extent. I think women do like guys to be well-rounded, but to be honest, I think it's also true with guys as well. You know, even if, you know, to put it crudely, you just see, you look at it from a kind of aesthetics point of view. You know, you want a girl to have big tits. You also want us to have somewhat of an arse as well. You know, I know it's a bit of a crude example, but you get what I mean. You know, you want us to have a nice body. You also want us to have a nice face. Like, maybe she's got a nicer face than a nicer body. You know, one, to put it crudely, makes up the other. But you kind of want both to some degree. You know, I think going into, you know, you also want us to have a nice personality as well, and, you know, agreeable. You know, you can get on with her. Dress as well. You know, all these other kind of things. So I think it's actually just what I'm getting at is just excelling enormously in one area is actually not that impressive. But what's really impressive is doing everything solidly. You know, to like be in good shape, have a good job, but then also like be just great person to be around. You've got fantastic social skills. You know, you dress well, you're cultured. You know, doing all these things. That's where the trick really lies. I also think, to go off on a bit of a tangent, I think that's slightly what keeps you sane as well. Because I've met people who just hyper-focused people, and they're not happy because they haven't got that. I know talking about balance and self-improvement is seen as kind of a bit of a cop-out. You know, it's kind of not what a lot of self-improvement people are about. But I think you need balance, and that's not to say you should be lazy at all. And by no means, it's actually much harder to do all these things, you know, together, than it is to do any one of them alone. You know, I mean, again, and not to say you can't have little bits here and there where you're focusing on one thing or another thing to really maximise that part. Fine, but in the grand scheme of things, you want to always kind of level out. And there was one other thing I was going to add. That's annoying, I forgot that. But yeah, I mean, that's what's truly difficult is finding a balance, basically. So, hope this makes sense, and I'll see you guys soon.